we really start again from the summary of our setup, which is primarily Milan-based in terms of research and development. And in Turin we have a state-of-the-art mixing process, which is probably the best in the world in our business. We have a strong activity as well in Slatina, where I said that we make a number of tyres not used in Formula 1, but it's fundamental for us for our global activities. So I think really I can go into, start off with really a scaling of our work that we have around the world. I mean, Formula 1 is the one area where people see the visibility, and I'm not really going to go into much detail on that right now, because we'll talk a bit later about it. But if we go on from Formula 1 and go to, for example, GP2, which is an amazing championship. If you think it's taken 22 drivers to Formula 1, it's an activity where we've now introduced some of the concepts from Formula 1 with having compound choices, having to manage the tyres, because we feel working with the promoter, that assists them when they move to Formula 1, that they got a better understanding of how to use the tyres. In fact, one new element of that is that we're going to offer to the winner of this year's GP2 title 1 day's tyre testing in a Formula 1 car, because we found when we were working with Alguersuari, for example, that after his first day testing, he gave me a call, as you can imagine, and I said, what was it like? What did you feel? And he said, well, Paul, I've learned more about tyres in 1 day with you today than I have in my racing career. So we understand that that's an opportunity that young drivers need today going forward. Going on GP3, which follows a number of races of the GP2 Championship and Formula 1 races. We've been in GP3 since the start of the category, and again it's starting to prove a great success, because we've seen 3 drivers go into Formula 1 from GP3, and that again is well, Verne. There was as well, we've got Gutierrez, who's gone into, as we've seen this year, into Sauber, and it's proving a fantastic category, but getting much better for this season, because we have more power. We're now at 400 horsepower this year, a new Dallara chassis, which for us is vital, because it was maybe too easy for the drivers, maybe over-tired, in the sense of the tyres were making it a little bit too easy for the drivers to drive, so they've changed that aspect. Moving on, we move into other categories which for us are vital, and GT racing, as anyone who knows Pirelli as a company, is an aspect of our business that's, again, vital, because it replicates what we do in our road car business. A lot of our customers are asking us to also race with them at weekends, and Stefan Rattel has developed a wonderful series, the Blancpain series, which we start this year. We've signed a 3-year contract with Stefan to race with the Blancpain. It's endurance racing, Pro-Am, often 50-60 cars competing, so it's a very successful category. And we're following on from what we were doing in the GT1 World Championship, which has now become the GT Sprint Series, again working with a number of those premium brands, the Lamborghinis, Ferraris, Porsches, Audis. I think Bentley have got a car coming this year as well, to have a good GT platform, which holds a lot of similarities, of course, to what we do with our road business. Moving on again from there, we have a number of one-make series. The most successful and famous is the Ferrari Challenge. We had 20 years of Ferrari Challenge celebrated last year, so it's an ongoing success story. And the final of that is often held in a European location, where you see all the Formula 1 team turn up as well. It's an amazing event, and as I say, 20 years is a huge success. And we also have the Lamborghini Super Trofeo and the Maserati Trofeo, which today compete not only in Europe, but also in the Lamborghini case in Asia, and in the case of Maserati in the Middle East. So these are very high quality, high visibility one-make series with a number of our OE partners. Going on from that, we really get a lot of national championships, and I think special mention here we need to make to the Stock Car Championship in Brazil, which we worked very hard during 2012 to bring back under our stewardship and to fit our tyres. It's a championship, for those who don't know, that is similar for Europeans to a DTM championship, with a lot of F1 drivers. I mean, Rubens is going there and competing this year, often having 11 million television viewers, 50 to 100,000 people at the track. So it is for such an important market as Brazil, for Pirelli, a fantastic acquisition, and we're absolutely delighted to be doing that. And I have to say, one of the reasons they wanted to come back with us was that a number of the management skills in race management that we've developed in Formula 1 are going to be applied to that championship. and they wanted to see that, the level of control and detail that we have. So that was a big plus. We also have many circuit racing championships, GT championships, Australian GTs. We have Porsche down in Australia. Closer to home, we have GTs in Europe or in America, basically everywhere. We have a bit of something. But let's not forget rallying. Rallying is very much in our DNA, and whilst of course we're no longer in the World Rally Championship, we keep a watching brief on that championship, trying to understand where it's going. Maybe with a new promoter we may have a further interest, but I think it needs to be a much stronger championship than what we've seen in the last few years. Having said that, we've continually developed our product. We've won many national championships and open competition, dominating almost everywhere in recent years, and that's a testament again to the ongoing work of the R&D team. We do look still in rallying to develop young talent. We have a number of star driver programs. I guess in recent years the more famous drivers have come through our programs, someone like Ott Tanak, who's been a works driver, but equally we've got youngsters still. Evan Evans, for example, in UK, young Welsh driver, son of Gwyndaf Evans, for those who follow rallying, a great young talent, and whilst we can't take them through to World Championship, we're still working with them very closely to get them up to the highest levels in national championships. We recently became a partnership with the Richard Burns Foundation, which is something personally dear to my heart, but it's a foundation looking at brain research, where the Pirelli rally in Cumbria, which is where we have a manufacturing location, a very well-known and famous rally, been there for 20 years as the Pirelli rally, is now the Pirelli Richard Burns Foundation rally. So, you know, we keep our spread global, and we try not to forget anything. I could add on, we've got one make series with Renault, one make series with Citroën in rallying. We will be present in a number of rounds of the European Rally Championship this season. So I have to say, almost everywhere you can think there's going to be competition, we're present.
Really quite a full activity, I think, Paul, but now is the time to go to Formula One, and I think that as you have to explain, also to remind what was the result from our point of view of the first 2 seasons with Formula One, but now is the moment to explain what's going to changing on this P0 range of tires for Formula One. We see a different color, but I know that the hidden things inside the tires are the most important to be explained. And to give you a help in explaining all this big stuff, which is of course very important for everybody inside this room, I also invite on stage a very important commentator for Formula One, a journalist, an illustrator, I could say the illustrator of Formula One, Giorgio Piola. Giorgio, please.
Thank you, Roberto. Good morning, good afternoon to everybody. And as you know, this season, I'm very happy, first of all, to be here, very proud to be here for the 3rd season of Formula One for Pirelli. Season starting with stability from the technical point of view. Stability, but in one point there is a big change, and this point is totally linked, connected to Pirelli. The weight limit. The weight limit of the car until last year was 640 kilos. Now it's 642. The reason why is because the Pirelli tires studied for this season are heavier, 200 grams in the front and 700 grams in the back. But the reason why you made a heavier tire, I'll let Paul Embry to explain.
And we have a fantastic video which I think really demonstrates wonderfully what we've been up to.
Pirelli's tyres undergo a revolution to tackle the 2013 Formula One season. The most obvious change is a new colour for the hard compound, which will now be distinguished by orange sidewall markings. From a technical point of view, there are 2 major changes: new compounds and new constructions. The work of the Pirelli engineers has centred on 3 key areas: combined traction, temperature distribution and performance improvements. There is more grip available through better combined traction, which reduces oversteer on the exit of the corner and allows the engine's full power to be used. Temperature distribution is improved. The contact patch distributes heat across the tyre in a more uniform way. Working together with the new compounds, the improved heat distribution over the tyre tread reduces blistering. Performance is improved. The greater amount of grip available and improved overall efficiency should lead to a reduction in lap times and will fix the performance gaps between each compound to between 0.6 and 0.8 of a second, favouring race strategy. As the construction and compounds change, so do the working ranges. Pirelli's 4-slick compounds include 2 tyres with a high working range and 2 tyres with a low working range. The hard and the soft tyres are designed to take in a high working range in excess of 100 degrees centigrade. Super soft and medium are designed for a lower working range, giving their best from 85 to 90 degrees. Both the wet tyres have evolved as well. In order to improve overall performance, the rear construction has been changed to ensure more progressive and consistent grip. The new 2013 F1 tyres are designed to make the most of any weather conditions they encounter, as well as all the different types of circuit and usage conditions that the teams and drivers put them through, without sacrificing speed, spectacle and safety. That's Pirelli's DNA.
Quite clear.
Georgia will try and go into a little bit more detail
Yeah,
now,
yeah.
and I think George has
Some
prepared
technical illustration from
a
yourself?
couple of diagrams here. I mean, essentially, as we've heard, we've changed the structure of the tyre. Now, to get more grip, more footprint, basically the amount of tyre touching the ground mid-corner, we had to change dramatically the carcass, going towards more of a what we describe a radial construction. It's not fully radial, but the plies that are in the side of the tyre are crossed, and when you make them more radial, you increase the size of the footprint. Now, that might sound easy, but when you do that, unfortunately, you lose some of your lateral cornering force. So you have to recover some of that by increasing the rigidity of the belt pack. That's the area that you see at the top of the tyre, where that's the real weight gain, where we've had to put reinforcing materials in. That has a number of advantages, essentially. I mean, it stops what you call buckling in corners. That's when the tyre deforms and folds, tries to fold in the middle of the tyre. With that increased resistance, you don't get the buckling. You get an improved heat distribution. We've seen that as well, that the distribution, the heat build-up on the tyre is much improved compared to last year's tyre. And with the structure, whilst it being 10% less rigid vertically, we have recovered the cornering forces by adding in that belt pack. You would have lost about 5% in lateral cornering forces if we hadn't made a modification to that belt pack. So it's very substantial changes. Add on as well the changes to the compounds on the slick tyres, the 4 compounds. With that increased rigidity, we get a much more rapid heat build-up, and what we're hoping for is more degradation. Now, that might sound strange because most of our lives we've spent, as you can imagine, trying to avoid performance decay and degradation. In reality, that's what we're being asked for in the sport of Formula 1. As has been mentioned earlier, at the end of the season, we were really getting to a point where we had negative degradation. The loss of fuel was actually compensating for any performance loss. The tyres were still going quicker at the end of their stint. We had tyres that could last the whole race. So we've had to really look again at what we were doing to try and create, from one side, maybe improved drivability with the mid-corner traction. From another point of view, still maintain a technical challenge for the teams.
Cool. I just remind Jean Alesi and of course George that we are all with open microphones, so everybody is able to ask questions or whatever. I know Jean, that you are very, very curious or something regarding driving this year.
Yeah, because with these new tires, you will increase the sharpness of the car. Let's say the turning is going to be better. You don't think that will make for some drivers a different approach to drive?
I'm quite sure it will. You know, we managed to test the structure, not the compound, in Brazil, and that feedback was very, very much that the turning was much quicker, which, as you can imagine, for some drivers was good, for some it wasn't, you know, and you never please everybody. There was certainly as well feedback that they could feel that the mid-corner traction was better, so they could get on the accelerator a little bit earlier mid-corner. And when they've moved the car around and studied better the new characteristics of the tyre, we're sure that when we see them racing in Melbourne, that with the technology and understanding they have, that they will get a good performance gain from the tyres.
So many things changing this year. You know that George has, in his drawings, really focused into detail all the changements from this tire this year.
Paul was talking to have a better, bigger footprint, and also they work a lot on the sidewalls. So it means that maybe there is a slightly different profile of the tire. And we know that in Formula One, the tires are very important for the aerodynamic point of view because they are creating massive drags, massive vortex. So it's important that if there is even a small change, especially in this section of the tire, just a little change of shape, it's very important to give information to the team. When you were able to give to the team to supply the information about the change of the section just to study in the wind tunnel?
Yeah, I mean, Formula One is a sport for aerodynamics, and every small change that you make has an influence on the flow of air over the tyre package. So with 10% less vertical rigidity, at about 150 kilometers an hour, that is, you will get a change in this tyre sidewall shape. Two things there. You've seen probably on last year's car, exhaust was still the major talking point in Formula One. The previous year it was blown diffusers. Last year there were still the top teams making continual changes to the exhaust, again trying to alter the flow of air over the rear tyres. But equally, a lot of the work that goes in Formula One is the unseen work, which is in wind tunnels. And for that we make 50% and 60% scale models of the F1 tyre. And in September we had to provide new product to the teams to address exactly what you're saying,
yep.
Is to understand what effect and what impact the deformation of the tyre will have on the aerodynamics of the package.
How difficult is to create the perfect correlation between real tires and scale model tires? Because I know a lot of team has, especially last year we were talking about difficulties in correlation between wind tunnel testing and the track result.
To be honest, that's probably the most difficult challenge in F1, is getting the wind tunnel tyres right, because the construction is nothing like a normal tyre, and you have to try and replicate on scale the type of deformation the full-size tyre gets. And that has been the centre of a lot of research from our point of view. We believe this season's tyres are a very good match for the deformation of the full-size tyre, so there's been some substantial steps forward.
Paul, and to you all guys, we have not long time left because we have to open the Q&A session. I would like also with Jean to focus something with these new characteristics from tires. Can we maybe think that some kind of drivers will be receiving help, some other kind of drivers maybe not?
Definitely, when there is for a driver a new compound or a new construction of tires, the handling change, and some, like Paul said, some driver will like and some less, but you can work on it. You can adjust the geometry of the suspension. You can do a good job with it. But for sure, anything you change on the tire, you feel it immediately.
Do you agree, Paul? Do you agree, Giorgio?
Yes, I wanted to point it out, the bigger footprint area, that maybe will be also very interesting for the driver, because it will increase for sure the braking stability, and also will change also maybe the braking attitude, because as we know, Pirelli are very good, for example, in braking just with a straight tire and the straight line, while some drivers prefer to be able to brake even start in the corner. With this change, do you think it will improve this attitude?
Yeah, I'm quite sure that will change, and it will take some time for the drivers to readapt, as it did when we came into the sport. They had to maybe change some approaches to, certainly in the braking zone, how they approached overtaking. But it's working in the direction that they've suggested. They wanted us to give an improvement. So we believe it's going to go in exactly the right direction. And they'll appreciate as well improved lap times. We saw maybe 3-4 tenths when we were in Brazil. When you combine with all the new compounds, we believe that in most racetracks it'll be half a second quicker.
I suggest that we go now to the Q&A session. Are you all ready? Because we have questions coming from the web. Of course, you are open to questions from the floor. Do you have the first questions coming from the web?
Well, just a question. The influence you have on the engineers, is it strong enough? Because when you are talking about blowing the rear floor. If they blow too much the rear tires, it can be a problem.
Yeah, I mean, well, in 2011, of course, there were a couple of incidents where the exhausts were really going onto the side of the tyres, and that created a problem. Also, we had maybe one race where one team had exaggerated the camber levels on the front tyre, and that led to us having to go to the FIA and say, look, you know, they're outside of our prescribed limits. Generally speaking, F1 engineers are very sensible, and they don't want to go beyond our limits because they know they're taking on a risk themselves. But you know, in any form of motorsport, the big challenge is always controlling the setup attributes, be it camber, be it pressure. Everybody tries to push the limits, and unfortunately, as a tyre maker, that can lead to tyre failure. But touch wood, we haven't had any such incidents in Formula One so far, and as long as we continue to monitor the situation and the teams are as professional as they have been, we don't envisage having any issues.
Well, the first question coming from the web is coming from Facebook. It's for you. It's coming from